Hey, good afternoon, guys. Keith Pickens here, coming to you today from beautiful North Raleigh. Uh, it's a gorgeous afternoon outside today. Happy to be outside working. Blessed to have the opportunity to work on this home today. And I kind of just wanted to share with you this particular project has a wide variety of substrates, surface types, heights, angles. So I wanted to make a quick video and kind of give you guys some ideas about how to approach a job like this and what our process is whenever we're completing a job like this and taking care of a customer's home. So first and foremost, let me show you, here's the front of the house. What you'll see, pretty typical here in North Carolina. In this case, we've got a combination of some brickwork. This is some hardy plank up on the top here, and everything is in pretty good condition. This home is almost 30 years old, and has had some couple of different things added as additions over time. Um, but here in the back, we've got, or excuse me, here on the side, we've got a stained patio deck area, wooden surfaces. Here in this little cobblestone area or brick area, excuse me, significant amount of growth there. You'll see all along different parts of this decking, some of the typical green, some of the black, the mold, the mildew that gathers over time. Again, typically speaking, your north side, west side of the house is going to show it sooner than the other areas, and that's predominantly just because of the exposure or lack of exposure to sunlight. Stays moist longer. Look at the top of that brick chimney up there. That's not soot. That is the same type of organic growth that's on the rest of this house. Got a visitor coming to see me. Want some TLC? Come on, baby, you're okay. Back, got to get that little dog put away. But again, talking about some of these other different substrates, here's a kind of a Four Seasons room. And what you got on here is, again, you've got all the growth down here. This is some aluminum siding. This is the original to the house. Screen material, and then this is a plastic in behind that, within those windows. So you need to be aware of all these different types of materials that are being used and what's safe for chemicals, varying levels of pressure, just things you need to be cognizant of and aware of. Here's again a better look at that chimney, the growth on there. This is the north side of the house, so as you can imagine, like I said before, you're going to see more of this growth. This is actually sap that's coming up from the wood, those white marks that you see there. Something else, this customer has gutter guards on the property, but still, as you see, sometimes you get these situations where that's what this is actually here for, just to prevent that water from flowing over and down from the deck. But I told him, I'm just going to clean this off for him today. This is not typical of part of a house wash, but just taking care of the customer and doing right by them. As far as cleaning an actual roof, that's another service that's offered. We're not doing that here today, although we did wash a roof earlier this morning. That's a very different process than what it is with washing this house. That's a complete soft wash system where we're applying the necessary chemicals, in that case, a percentage of sodium hypochlorite, which is a bleach-based product, in combination with surfactants that are going to help to suspend that chemical up on that roof. And we just want to let it sit there. And essentially, I'm going to create a curtain of chemicals that'll ease down and put a coat all over that asphalt shingles, and we're going to let that sit and take all of that growth away from the roofing. Today, this is going to be a combination of predominantly downstreaming and a little bit of soft washing and pressure washing for some of those stone areas that you saw before. Here's an example of some concrete that really would benefit from being cleaned. We're not doing that for this customer today, but in the process for cleaning this concrete, this is where you're going to use pressure from the pressure washer. You are going to use the same type of chemical, but at a higher concentration. I want to show you a little bit the difference of a transformation here of see how this stone looks versus how this stone and brickwork looks. So this has been covered, so of course you don't have the growth that's gotten into those pores. And then down here, obviously, all that black. So again, we're going to clean that up for the customer today. Here is another example of a couple of different types of property protections that we do. If you notice, I've got tape over all of these keyholes because again, the chemicals that I'm using, these are corrosive. I don't want to get them in the customer's locking mechanisms and cause damage to those locks. Over time, they'll get corroded. So again, taking the necessary precautions to protect our customers' equipment and property. Same thing here again. We're taping off any electrical outlets and being sure that we don't get our chemicals into anything electrical because it is quite conductive and can cause problems. So you need to know what you're doing. All right, guys, that's it for now. I'll come back in a little while and I'll show you the end result of how this property came out. Like I was mentioning a little bit ago, you heard me using some terms like pressure washing, soft washing, downstreaming, and each of those are a different process, okay? So what I'm going to demonstrate here for you right now, I am downstreaming a chemical solution onto this side of the house. I'll let you see a little bit of how I do that. So I'm going to begin, I'm going to wet, as you see I've already wet this down partially, but I'm going to wet this whole area down with water. And then I have a remote control here that I'm going to utilize to turn on the chemical solution that I'll be applying. I'm going to let that dwell on the property for a certain amount of time, depending on a lot of different factors. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do a rinse of this side of the house. So feel free to watch, get the general idea. See here in just a moment. Again, this is all just water, and it's doing a couple of different things. It's cooling down this surface because I don't want to apply a chemical onto this substrate when it's hot and have it evaporate too quickly. I want it to stay wet, sit on that surface, and do what it is that I intend for it to do. Another added benefit of this, if you notice, this shrubbery here in front of me, this is actually pretty hardy, would not be easily damaged if it did come in contact with any of the chemicals that I'll be using. However, just as an added precaution, I'm going to water this down to give it some additional protection. Because it could just potentially stress the plants a little bit. Again, the amount of solution that I'm using would not necessarily create any damage to this. This is just an additional safeguard. All right, everything here is pretty well saturated with water. Let me get this back section you might not see so well. Okay, so now, again, with the equipment that I'm using, I can turn on the equipment that I have back on the trailer. That's going to give me access to the chemical solution, which will also be coming out of this same high pressure hose. It's going to take it, I got about 200 feet of hose right here. It's going to take it probably about 60 seconds before I start filling it out of the gun. All right, I can feel that chemical on my hand. And in this case, for those of you who are familiar with downstreaming in the process, This particular machine is an 8 gallon per minute machine, and the injector that I'm using on here, it has a 2.1 millimeter orifice. So depending upon using a 1.8, a 2.1, or a 2.3 is going to affect the amount of chemical concentration that I'm pulling from my supply tanks. And I'm not going to go into great depth about that right now. If somebody else has questions about that, I'll be happy to explain it to you more later. But at this point right now, everything's saturated, it's wet. You come back and apply the chemical solution, and we're going to let that dwell. So come back and spray again. And I'm purposely spraying from bottom to top. I don't know how well you can see those soap suds in the camera there. Whenever I go back around with some video later, I'll point out to you the areas that had the mold and the mildew and the algae that was pretty obvious and visible, and show you the close-up of that end result. Again, I don't think you can probably see very well here in this video, but what you got here is a lot of cobwebs built up probably over quite an extended period of time. Bug remnants. Typically, you know, when you leave that porch light on at night, we all know how the bugs like to get drawn to that. Now, I know for you homeowners, the consideration there is, obviously you see in this case, this is a fairly tall household reaching that top without pulling out a ladder. Unfortunately, that's just one of the disadvantages of some of the homeowner grade equipment, is not being able to get to some of those more difficult portions of the household without a ladder. All right, so I know some of you will probably ask me, how long does that sit there and dwell for? Well, quite honestly, it can vary significantly depending upon the heat, the sunlight, the percentage of chemical. Ideally, I don't want this to dry, so I'm going to do my best. In this case, I purposely started in this area because, as you can see, I wet it down, I cooled it off. In this particular side of the house right now, I don't have a ton of sun exposure, so I'm probably going to let this dwell for somewhere between 5 to 10 minutes. So while I do that, I will come back here to you shortly and let you see some more. All right, everybody, we're back. Just wrapping this one up. Take you on a little bit of a walk around again. If you remember what some of this looked like before, I would say we are much improved. And again, I know we talked about this earlier. This was a downstreaming process. Shot a little bit of a video previously from this side of the house. And walking around to the back. I told you we kind of cleaned up that area up there for the customer where there was some built up pine straw and stuff that got in the corners. You see, I think we successfully got everything off of that deck. A little bit of a grease stain back in there that's not going to quite come off, but for the most part that is all cleaned up. Same thing over here, that walkway. it's always nice to see the end product, especially knowing we've got this warm weather coming up. People want to come outside, enjoy the outdoors, have friends and family come visit. It just makes everything so much more inviting. Probably next year we will need to come back and do an actual gutter cleaning on this property. The good thing about gutter guards, they do a pretty good job, depending upon the quality of them, of stopping things from getting inside of there, clogging up those downspouts. Here in this case, you can see the downspouts are running directly away from the house. Another thing are the underground downspouts, which are honestly better. However, sometimes you just don't know if they get clogged. So consideration. So even my point being is, even with the downspouts, or the with the gutter protectors, gutter guards, inevitably things are still going to get inside of there, whether it's the silt from the roofing, from the asphalt shingles, whether it's in our area a lot of pine needles, whatever the case may be. Again, this customer wasn't really interested in having the concrete washed on this visit, but like I told you, I did want to go ahead and do this walkway for them, so it mimics what it looks like up there in that covered area, like I mentioned before. All right, guys, I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of, again, the process that it entails, whether we're using pressure for pressure washing, which is the terminology that most commonly gets used, and predominantly we're talking about any kind of significant pressure being used on this concrete, and again, that's probably in the 3,500 psi range, but predominantly what most of the washing is going to come from is downstreaming, which is what was the case with this property. All right, thank you. Enjoy your day. Thanks.